Germany, the country that rebuilt itself from literal rubble to become the economic engine of an entire continent, is facing a crisis. For 80 years, German industrial dominance was unquestioned. Its engineers invented the automobile, its chemists created modern pharmaceuticals, and its factories made the phrase "made in Germany" synonymous with the highest standards on earth. But today, that engine is dying. This collapse isn't due to bad luck or external enemies. It is self-inflicted. 3 specific decisions made across 3 decades built a trap so precisely engineered that escaping it now requires a level of political courage the country has yet to show. The first fatal mistake was the China addiction. Germany sold its future for a decade of short-term profits. By 2021, Volkswagen was selling more cars in China than in Europe and North America combined. The same was true for BMW and Mercedes-Benz. The entire German automotive industrial complex restructured itself around the assumption that Chinese consumers would buy German premium vehicles indefinitely. However, in geopolitics, when a single customer accounts for more than a third of your profits, you don't have a customer, you have a landlord. By 2023, China accounted for up to 40% of the profits of Germany's largest automakers. But then, China built its own industry. They didn't just assemble parts, they perfected electric vehicles. Companies like BYD, once dismissed by European executives, became world leaders. By 2024, Chinese brands held nearly 35% of their domestic EV market, while German market share plummeted. Germany's strategic architecture was built on a wrong assumption: the customer had become the competitor. This led to a historical turning point in late 2024 when Volkswagen announced potential factory closures in Germany for the first time in its 87-year history. The second fatal mistake was energy suicide, driven by what has become the most expensive ideology in modern economic history. In 2011, following the Fukushima disaster in Japan, Germany announced it would shut down all its nuclear power plants by 2022. This decision ignored the fact that Germany does not sit on Pacific fault lines. The policy, called Energiewende, aimed to replace nuclear and coal with wind and solar at an unprecedented speed. Instead, it became a disaster. Germany spent over €500 billion, yet ended up with some of the highest electricity prices on Earth. To fill the energy gap created by closing zero-carbon nuclear plants, Germany turned to lignite coal, the dirtiest form available. Consequently, carbon emissions rose rather than fell. Even worse, Germany deepened its dependency on Russian natural gas, dismissing warnings from neighboring countries. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Germany was forced to sever this tie instantly. Energy-intensive industries like chemicals and steel faced costs they couldn't absorb. Major companies like BASF began shifting production to the US and Asia. Despite this, in April 2023, Germany followed through with switching off its last nuclear plants. The ideology held, even as the industrial base crumbled. The third fatal mistake is the demographic death spiral. Germany has a world-class workforce but faced 1.7 million unfilled job vacancies in 2023, alongside a growing pension crisis. This traced back to 1889, when Otto von Bismarck invented the welfare state. At the time, pension eligibility was 70, while life expectancy was 40. Today, life expectancy is 82, and Germans collect pensions for an average of 15 years. With a fertility rate of 1.4, well below the replacement rate of 2.1, the population pyramid has inverted. There are now more Germans above 60 than below 30. By 2030, approximately 7 million workers will leave the labor force. Germany attempted to address this with the 2015 refugee crisis, but integration was slow and the political backlash was severe. Meanwhile, the highly skilled immigrants Germany desperately needs, engineers and scientists, are deterred by one of the most complex bureaucracy systems in the developed world. Germany is now following the path of Japan's lost decades, where an aging society consumes the resources needed to fund its own escape. This is not a standard recession, it is a convergence of three variables. The China addiction starved automakers of the funds needed for the EV transition. The energy crisis made manufacturing uncompetitive just as Chinese rivals achieved cost parity. The demographic collapse is draining the very talent needed to innovate out of these problems. These weren't mistakes of corruption, but of well-intentioned people assuming the future would look like the past. The German model worked when gas was cheap, China was only a customer, and demographics were favorable. That model is now a cage. The question remains whether a democracy can make the painful structural decisions necessary to reinvent itself before the floor completely gives way. History suggests that the belief that past greatness automatically sustains future success is a costly illusion.